Adult Swim, you think you slick, huh? You think you can release the same show twice and we won't expect it, huh? Feeling real juvenile right now. This network needs no introduction. The initial go-to for funny, crude adult animation with shows like Home Movies, Space Ghost Coast to Coast, Aqua Teen Hunger Force, Squidbillies, C-Lab 2021, Super Gel, Metalocalypse, The Boondocks. Whew. The list goes on. I've been a fan of the programming block for as long as I can remember. Back at elementary school when I would sneak late night and watch it while my parents were asleep. It also, for many of the black anime community, was our introduction to the world of anime. Thanks to Toonami acquiring the rights to air shows like Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z and GT, Naruto, Bleach, One Piece, Yu Yu Hakusho, and more, we were able to experience a bit of Japanese culture on the weekends. So much so, Toonami is still airing to this very day every Friday night. Even after numerous cancellations and deaths of the programming block, it still finds its way to come back. But why am I bringing this up? Well, long story short, Adult Swim, coincidentally but not coincidentally, produced 2 original shows with the same focal point at the exact same time. One show finished airing with the other show premiering exactly 1 week later. I'm pretty sure you're wondering, Jay, what are these 2 shows? Well, we'll get into that. 2025 has brought the world so many memorable series. Severance Season 2, Orb on the Movements of the Earth, Sakamoto Days, The Shiunji Family Children. And just with those last 2 picks, I've dug a hole perfectly fit for a casket, so I'ma move on. While we're on the topic of anime, let's talk about Lazarus. This is the latest series from director extraordinaire Shinichiro Watanabe. That's right, the man behind Cowboy Bebop, Samurai Champloo, Space Dandy, Terror and Resonance, Carol and Tuesday. That Ningen don't miss. Resume stacked. Now he's back in 2025 with Lazarus. In the year 2052, before going off the grid, world-renowned scientist Dr. Skinner stumbles upon a magic drug called Hapna, an analgesic that relieves and heals the user of any and all pain. However, 3 years later, Skinner comes back from hiding to inform the world about the true nature of Hapna, essentially saying whoever took it, majority of the planet because they're fucking stupid party fiends, dropping it in their sodas like Molly, everyone who took it is gonna die. Which brings us to our main characters, Axel, Doug, Chris, Leland, and Elena, 5 criminals who are tasked with finding Dr. Skinner in 30 days before the drug can take full fatal effect. At the time of writing, 5 episodes have aired, or by this point the entire series because, other stuff. When I wrote the first version of this script, only the first 2 episodes were out, so my initial thoughts were more on the negative end, mainly because it wasn't a lot to go off of. Now that more episodes have released, have my opinions changed? From my initial judgments, the show was a little uninteresting, which wasn't a fair label to put on the show that early, as its story beats were slowly being introduced. So I decided to give it more time. Fast forward to episode 5, or wherever we are now, my initial feelings are still present. Honestly, I don't think Lazarus is taking full advantage of the story. The commentary on the potential future of healthcare is nice, but other than that, it's still a bit underwhelming to me. Compared to Watanabe's past series, Lazarus is definitely the weakest. Especially when most of your resume is back-to-back bangers, it's hard to keep topping yourself, unless you take frequent yoga classes, in that case, go crazy. And we're finally seeing that streak being broken with Lazarus. It'd be different if he released Cheeks, then Heat, Cheeks, then Heat, you know, Drake shit. But I think Watanabe has already released his best works. Lazarus just feels like a less interesting Cowboy Bebop, but with updated, more fluid animation and visuals. That's the strongest thing going for Lazarus, the visuals. Mappa put their whole map pussy into this. Is that still a thing? Are people still making that kind of joke? I don't know. Anyway, yet another case to why Hell's Paradise got the short end of the stick animation-wise. I personally think the visual flair is doing a lot of heavy lifting for the lack of story that's happening. It has the signature visual flair of a Watanabe work, but that's it. Despite the show being about what it's about, I didn't think it could be duplicated or replicated, but it did. By Adult Swim. Accidentally. Let me explain. Around the time Lazarus was in development, Common Side Effects was also greenlit by Adult Swim, one show that flew under everyone's radar. I heard about the show when the first trailer released a few months ago. Funny enough, the day Luigi Mangione got arrested for killing the CEO of United Healthcare. Adult Swim, you think you slick, huh? Try and get clout from healthcare CEO death from the blick, huh? In all seriousness, there couldn't have been a better time to release a trailer than that specific day. And for the show to center around healthcare and the problems with the industry, well, now that I think about it, hey FBI, I got a tip regarding Luigi Mangione, and I think Adult Swim might be involved. From the moment the trailer started, I was immediately hooked, looking forward to the release of the full series in the coming months. And then, we got the show. Man. This is easily one of the best shows to air in 2025, and it deserves every ounce of attention and coverage imaginable. During a trip to Peru, Marshall stumbles upon the Blue Angel mushroom, a magic drug that can heal any and every illness. He's been on close watch by federal authorities ever since. We'll get to that later. At the same time, JAYTASTIC Pharmaceuticals is doing everything in their power to hide all knowledge regarding this mushroom from the general public to keep them hooked on their products. This is where Francis comes in, as we find out that Marshall and Francis were high school classmates back in the day. They reunite years later in a coffee shop but walk across the street, and Marshall spills the tea on the mushroom. After visual evidence of the drug's healing abilities, that being through a neck snap bird, damn Marshall, it ain't that serious, bruh. This gives Francis the bright idea to sell the drug through JAYTASTIC to revive their tanking business. All of this while Marshall is still on the run from the police, tracking his every move, not letting this nigga breathe in the slightest. Because of this mushroom, tension and different ideologies begin to rise between our cast of characters, due to how it should be distributed and used. Wait, this plot smells a little fishy. That smelly smell I smell. Is that theft? To be fair, Lazarus was greenlit for production back in 2019. I'm assuming way before Common Side Effects was pitched to the network. So it's just kind of a funny coinky doink that both shows center around drugs and healthcare. This series was created by Joseph Bennett, a relatively new creative, at least to me, because I don't be hip to nothing. He previously created the very short-lived Scavenger's Reign, which, despite the positive rave reviews, was canceled by Max after its first season. Kinda tragic, but do we expect anything less from Max? The same streaming service that basically nuked its entire animation catalog, even Looney Tunes? Looney Tunes? You can have all the money in the world, you'll never have as much cultural relevance as Bugs Bunny. Wait, it's called HBO Max again? Zaslav, make your mind up, sir. Jobin and her Scavenger's Reign wasn't getting renewed and was like, bet, another one. I wasn't familiar with your game, sir. I was already interested in the trailer when watching it for the first time, but one name had me invested. Mike Judge. A big force in animation with an outstanding track record. Beavis and Butthead, King of the Hill, Silicon Valley, also The Good Family, but I'ma pretend that doesn't exist. He didn't create Common Side Effects, but he played a good enough part in getting the show made, releasing it under his production company. Judge also lends his voice to the CEO of JAYTASTIC Pharmaceuticals, Rick Kruger, an incompetent man-baby that can't really do anything or make decisions by himself. Judge knocks this character out of the park with his vocal delivery. He is just using his Hank Hill voice, but I'll cut him some slack because it still fits. He's not Justin Roiland. That man literally used the same voice for every character. Judge does, however, voice two other prominent characters for which I will not cut slack. Let's look at Mike Judge's voice acting resume in the past, and you can easily tell he's phoning it in here. Beavis, Butthead, Principal McVicker, Mr. Van Driesen, Tom Anderson, who served as inspiration for Hank Hill, Boomhauer. Very unique, distinctive voices you can guess with your eyes closed. I understand this is kind of a nitpick, but I'd be lying if I said it wasn't weird watching Common Side Effects, hearing Hank Hill, and a little sugar in his Tank Hill. Especially since the characters that aren't Rick have just as much plot relevance in the show as Rick. I mean, space them out so we don't have to hear them within minutes of each other at least. Besides that, I can't think of an adult animated series that excels in every department the way Common Side Effects does. Stellar animation, unique character design and art direction, perfect voice acting and writing, excellent world building. You can tell this was made by people who have a deep love and burning passion for animation, and not just some comedians who saw one episode of Family Guy or Rick and Morty. You know the difference. I don't gotta say it. Just like with Scavenger's Reign, this show flew under the radar for a lot of people, mainly because of the art style from what I've seen. Most are put off by the big heads with small hands and facial features. In my opinion, I think it gives the show a unique identity that sets itself apart from the crowd. At least it's not generic Rick and Morty clone number 1,560,973. Those will always show up. Common side effects comes once in a lifetime. Out of all the animated series in recent memory, this is hands down the most cinematic, dynamic, fluid one probably since Final Space. Outside of the similarities in plot, these two shows go about it very differently. Common side effects is how I would have wanted Lazarus to be in terms of execution. Continuing on with similarities, each show has baddies, that being Francis and Chris and Elena. I don't know if Francis will be a hear me out due to the art style, but I would. Even Cecily, and on a night of heavy intoxication, maybe Agent Harrington. But that's a rarity if I'm feeling litty, you know what I'm saying? Chris and Elena, on the other hand, need no explanation. I mean, look at her. Look at her! Shinichiro Watanabe shows always have at least one baddie. Cowboy Bebop, Faye Valentine. Samurai Champloo, Fu. Terror and Resonance, 5. Carol and Tuesday, Carol and Angela. Ha, you thought I was gonna say Tuesday, didn't you? But not Tuesday as well. I'd even say Michiko and Atsuko, since Michiko and Hachin is Watanabe adjacent. Plus, they're both probably the sexiest anime characters of all time. Love me, my melanated queens. As I said previously, two shows centered around the same topic, released within a week from each other, from two opposite ends of the world. Which one would I recommend the most though? Common side effects. It's the more original story with more interesting characters and setting. Lazarus just feels like Cowboy Bebop 2025, even down to the jazz music. It just doesn't feel fresh outside of the animation, so I'd recommend Common Side Effects without a doubt, no hesitation. Go watch Common Side Effects. You might as well get caught up before season 2 comes out. But yeah, that's the end of the video. Have you seen Common Side Effects? Have you seen Lazarus? What do you think about both? Which do you prefer more? I'm curious to know your thoughts in the comments down below. And if you rock with the video, leave a like and subscribe. Till next time, deuces.
I don't need no one else.